and go where the winners go. Sailing ain't an option, no, it ain't in my blood.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Mondays Beyond the Mic. I am your host, Dr. Elaine. So we like to say happy Monday and happy Women's History Month. So clap it up for the women, yay, yay, yay. We are doing extraordinary things. So we say that this place is where we tell the truth, even when it's uncomfortable, so that men and women can grow together. So I want to say thank you to our regular viewers and welcome to our new viewers. And what do I ask for you to do? Something very, very simple. And guess what I want you to do? It's not a hard thing. I promise you it's not a hard thing what I want you to do. And I'm going to show you. That's it. Okay. So it was a little technical difficulties, but we got through it. Right. So we want you to be able to hit that thumbs up button, because what does it do when you do that? It helps to move the show further into these YouTube streets. And we are excited about that. We have some disclaimers. We say that this show is for entertainment and educational purposes only. We want you to know that. So education and entertainment purposes only. And we have a house rule. What is our house rule? It's very simple. Respect, respect, and respect. And I know at this time is normally when I say Lady Dawn B, but she's running a little bit late, but she'll be here with us. But we're excited tonight. So we're going to see who's talking to us in the chat, and then we will go from there. So we have a lot of people talking, and we love it. We love it. We love it. So what are we going to do? Who do we have here? Hold on. Shakira, she said greetings. I hope I said that correctly. And Real Bridge, she said happy Monday. Hey, Lisa, thank you for joining us. And hey, Anae, she said, hey, bravo, as Sheila. And I want to say thank you, Anae. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I want to say, Anae, thank you for all that you do for the Bravo with Sheila Network. And then we have Loretta. She said, good evening from Loretta Yorkman in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So see, this show is not just in New York. It's not just in New Jersey. We are in Pennsylvania as well. Thank you for joining. And then we have Trudy. She said, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Trudy. Thank you for joining. And Anae said, hey, at Dr. Elaine, and only Dawn B can say it the way that she says it, is that Anae, and I totally agree, is the greatest moderator in these YouTube streets. And if something is out of order, she will put it back in order by removing people from the chat. So we appreciate everything that you do, Anae. Then we have Lisa. Hey, Lisa. She said, hi, Lisa, and Monet is here. Thank you for joining. I truly appreciate it. And Anae was speaking back to the people. She said, hi, Shakira. And she said, hello, hey, at Real Bridges. And she said, hey to Trudy. And we have Pamela Washington. She said, good evening from Staten Island, New York. All right, Staten Island is in the house. And Anae said, hey to Lisa Jefferson, as well as hey to Pamela Washington. So we thank you, everyone who is in here, and we ask that you hit that like button for us, please, and thank you. And you can share it, and we ask, if you have not done so already, please, please, please subscribe to the channel so you will never miss an episode. All right? Okay. So today, as we salute women for Women's History Month, I wanted to salute someone who I know. So today we want to salute Senator Renee Burgess. Senator Renee C. Burgess was born April 5th, so she got a birthday coming up, 1971. She's a Democrat representing the 28th Legislative District in New Jersey. Her academic achievements include an associate's degree in business from Essex Community College, a bachelor's degree in organizational leadership from Pillar College, and a master's degree in public affairs and administration from Metropolitan College of New York. She brings a wealth of experience in leadership, public service, and community advocacy. A lifelong resident of Irvington, New Jersey, she is dedicated to her career to uplifting and empowering her community through both elected and appointed roles in government, as well as those that serve in the private sector. So in 2014, Renee Burgess was elected council member at large for the Irvington Township Municipal Council, allowing her to represent the entire township. She was reelected in 2018 and later served as council president from October 2019 to September 2022. In the 28th legislative, in September of 2022, she was appointed to the New Jersey State Senate to represent the 28th Legislative District, succeeding Senator Ronald L. Rice following his retirement after 35 years in office. Senator Burgess is rooted in family and faith. So we just wanted to take this opportunity to salute Senator Renee Burgess. So her, and I love her the more because I had the opportunity to actually be her professor when she attended Pillar College. So I love the transition. All right. So tonight we're gonna talk about some things. And this is our first time. Yes. This is our first time doing this particular segment, but I believe it will not be our last. So it says, welcome. Tonight is called The Pen and the Panel, where the pages come alive and the conversation gets real. This is the space where I don't just have the opportunity to speak as the author, but listen, where the audience becomes the interviewers and curiosity leads to conversation. So today, we are diving into chapter 1. So if you do not have the book, we say, please go out and get it. It says, I am a woman with issues, but I still qualify. We are diving or delving into chapter 1, which is low iron, but strong will. The foundation, the introduction, the place where it begins, where every word written holds intention. Every sentence carries a story, and tonight our panel gets to ask questions you've been thinking about and didn't know how to ask. So whether you're listening for clarity, connection, or confirmation, we ask you to do what? Lean in because it is more than a discussion. This is a dialogue between purpose and perspective. So we're going to not just open the book, we're going to also open the floor, the space here on Mondays Beyond the Mic for the very first Pen and the Panel. So give it up. Thank you. So we're going to bring up our guest on tonight, no particular order. So Coach Theo is in the building. Thank you, Coach Theo. You want to introduce yourself really quickly?
Yes, Theodora Carter. I'm a certified life and career coach, HR consultant. And you can find out more about me by following me everywhere. I'm Theodora Carter 48.
Okay. Thank you. Kim, can you introduce yourself and welcome?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Kim Walker. I am a wife, a mom of a tween boy, a businesswoman. I work in property management, and I'm an elder in the church. You can find me on social media. I don't have any particular handle, but I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And Danielle, introduce yourself.
Good evening, everyone. I am Danielle. I'm a mom. I'm a woman who deeply is committed to her growth, purpose, and making meaningful impact. And I'm also an MBA candidate, so I am currently upcoming in my career, but super, super, super honored to be here and grateful to have met Dr. Sanders.
Thank you. And we have Lisa.
Hi everyone, I'm Lisa, and I have a article column called Sidewalk Therapy, and I recently walked across the United States for mental fitness and suicide awareness.
Thank you, Lisa. And Tiffany.
Hi, my name is Tiffany. I am an administrative assistant. I am the founder of Legacy Continuum Foundation, and I work in communications.
Okay. And last but definitely not least, Kimberly.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kimberly Walcott, one of the founders of Inclusion Mobile Detailing. We are a for profit organization based out of Harlem, New York, and we hire and employ individuals that are formerly incarcerated, individuals that have suffered from homelessness and mental illness, as well as veterans and people with disabilities. I'm very happy to be here. I hold a bachelor's degree in journalism and a master's in OCM, organizational change management, from the New School in New York City, New York. Happy to see everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. So we're going to get in it. These lovely ladies had the opportunity, at least I know they bought the book, so I'm going to believe they read the book. So they read the book, and we're just going to throw out some questions here. And, Lady Dawn, so it was some questions. So I'm going to ask anyone from the panel if you want. And just before, I know there are 26 people watching, please hit that like button for us, please. And thank you. So we're going to start with, and I'm just going to pick a random person here. I'm going to start backwards. Kimberly, what would be one of your questions?
One of the first questions that I had based on chapter 1, do you think that this stigma is more prevalent in certain cultures versus others, specifically in the culture for African American women, women of color? Do we think that it is more prevalent within the cultures?
So when you say the stigma, are you speaking
of feeling not worthy, of feeling like you're less than or not enough, or just not worthy, specifically when we talk about low iron and when you're divorced or when you've had some trials and tribulations? Do we feel that it is most prevalent from our personal experiences in cultures for women of color?
Honestly, I think those feelings of probably not feeling worthy, I think that could be universal. I don't think it has a specific color. I think it has a feeling. Mm-hmm. And with that being said, when you're hurt is hurt. I don't think that matters. No one, and I've said this, no one walks to an altar to then say in a couple of years, I don't. I think we all go with the intention that I do will be our forever. I do believe that. I don't know if anyone else wants to comment. We can leave that open. Okay. But thank you. And in the chat, if you have questions, we ask you to put your questions in there. That's what we're here tonight for, the pen and the panel. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Danielle.
I'm glad you came to me because, I was like, I want to get off mute. I told you earlier, you asked me to do this a couple weeks ago, and I read the book then, and then last night something said read it again, so I could really kind of get a real understanding of how I wanted to show up today. And as I was reading chapter 1, and you talked about the woman with the issue of blood and her being unclean, the one thing that I guess I wanted to get some insight on that I felt was not clear to me is, how does the community show up in spaces like that, right? Like, I've had friends where I'm like, I can see that they're going down the wrong road, right? I want to steer them in the right direction, but we also understand that God puts us through things to create our testimony. And so it's like, how do you, being on the outside, show up for your friend, but not stand in the way of God's purpose for them, in a sense? And also stand in the way of your purpose in that space as well. So that's my question.
That's a great question. I think that when we look at the premise, right, because we're talking about we started with, or I started with the woman with the issue of blood. And according to the Jewish custom, she was considered unclean based on the fact. So no one could touch her. And now imagine this woman has bled for 12 long years, which meant every place she sat, every place she went, it was a reminder of what was going on with her. I think she did go to the community because it says she spent all she had. So she went to the doctor, which is a part of our community, right? It wasn't until she had nothing else that she made a pivot. And I think sometimes what happens for us is we have to come down to nothing to then say, okay, let me try this. So we exhaust all of our relationships before we come to a place where we're now asking God, what can I do? Or what did I miss? Does that make sense? Or did I answer your question?
It makes sense. I think I'm looking at it from the perspective of, I guess, maybe that one person who didn't look at her. Because there was a part in chapter 1 where you talked about the one person who just went against, what tradition said and still wanted to be with that person that was unclean, right? It's like, how do you support that person without interfering with their journey?
Well, I think when I talk about that person, or that person being her or us, when we're in there, there's some things, I think of the butterfly, there's some things that you cannot help a butterfly come out of the cocoon. You got to let it break out on its own, because if not, although you're being helpful, at the same time you're being harmful because it doesn't have the strength, because it didn't go through the process. So I think sometimes we want to help more than we actually can, because it's that season for them to grow and grow their own strength.
I love that, because that was actually another question that I had that you answered.
Okay. Thank
Thank you.
you. Kim.
I just knew you was going to come to me next. And I'm ready. So my question is, how do you push past, because you just mentioned the butterfly having to push, right? So how do you push past your insecurities and stepping into purpose? As I was reading chapter 1, the woman she pressed. As we know the story, she pressed past everything. And some of the things that you said in chapter 1 hit close to home, because, insecurities or infertility or things like that, or divorce, those things are tough, but you were able to step into your purpose. And I remember us speaking a while ago when we went to a homegoing, and you had mentioned to me this was your book that you had written by yourself, right? You've written other books, but this was the first book you written by yourself. And that was amazing. I was inspired. But how do you push past all the insecurities or all the things that hold you back, that makes you feel like you're not able to go forward and push into purpose?
That's a great question. But I'm going to answer it, but I have to do this. Yay! We have a super chat from Bravo with Sheila. So whenever we get a super chat, we have to stop everything and highlight the super chat. It says, blessings to the host, the panel, and the chat. This is a great topic. Thank you so much, Bravo with Sheila. So back to your question. I think you have to come to a place where enough is enough. And unfortunately, very much like this woman with the issue of blood, it's when we've run out of all of our own resources. And that's the moment that most of us come to the point and say, let me try God. Let me do something different. I would say for me in this, I did speak about being divorced. When something has been your life for so long, and 10 years, 15 years, whatever the amount of years, it's hard to figure out, what does my new norm look like? Like this woman, it says she bled for 12 years, but she had a different life before she was hemorrhaging. And then after she touched the hem of his garment, she had to have a different life after that. And that let me know that we have to realize that our life goes into seasons. There's sometimes that things are happening to us that it doesn't feel good in the moment, but who would have thought that her issue of blood would have helped so many other people to relate. So I often say we go through what we go through because it's not for us, it's to help other people so that we become the blueprint, right? Or we become the footprint that other people can walk and understand. If she can do it, I can do it too. I can get through it. It may look different, whatever the issue is, but someone else has gone before you. Okay. Now, Tiffany.
Hi. One of my first questions that I had for the chapter was, what made you, in your situation of the divorce and feeling alone, that made you so unclean that you compared your issues to the woman with issues? And also with the blood, the issue of blood, which is so prevalent in religion. Like, it's the blood, the blood. And like, why did you feel, pushed to do that? And were you afraid to address that issue? And what made you go on to through the issues?
Oh, Tiffany, that's a whole loaded question or questions that you asked. So, yes, I was afraid. Two, another part of it, what made me compare myself? And the first question I want to say, have you been to church? Church folks can be hard, especially when there's that establishment. And I say specifically because I was a first lady. So there is a difference then, and you go into church and sister so-and-so and brother so-and-so versus pastor and first lady. And it was hard because I was like, okay, God, where did I miss you? So now I started to question myself. I started to ask myself, where did I go wrong? And then I compared myself to her because there was a stigma. I had people who said things like, just go and pray about it. And I'm like, wait a minute, we need more than prayer. They was trying to give me, I'm going to call it a Holy Ghost quick fix. That wasn't going to happen, or it did not happen. So I had to live with that stigma in that moment of, this is what is almost like the scarlet letter, hanging over your head. And then I had to come to a place that I'm like, no, I've had enough. I'm moving past this, and I need to see what else God has for me. So it came to the point of questioning who I was in God. How was I being defined now? Because you go through years being this person. Now, who are you becoming? And I didn't know at that time. But I'm better today because I know who I am. And so that's why this book had to be released, because I've had this title for over 14 years. But I released this book in this year. So please hit that thumbs up button. Bravo what Sheila said. 27 people watching, only 7 people. Smash the button and subscribe. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I know we need to get to these comments as well. So let me try to work my magic here and see what happens, right? Keefe says, good evening. Oh, from Trissell. Hey, Trissell, how are you? And Anae gave some claps. Thank you, Anae. And Janice said, hey, Janice, she said, good evening, everyone. And hey, Nadine. Nadine said, good evening. So see, they know I can't lie. These people were a part of my story. And Anae said, hey to Danielle. And Anae said, everyone, you can purchase the book on Harlem Girls website. So there is the website if you have not purchased it. And you can also get it on Amazon.com if you don't want to go through all of that. But either way, I promise you this book will bless your whole life. Okay? All right. And we have Newberg, 12. I think that's 12. Yes, 12. Well, Newberg. Hello. Says, good evening, everyone. Good evening. All right. Questions. Did I get Lisa? I get Lisa?
You did not.
I'm so
So I loved reading this book, and I wanted to know when you touched on isolation, and what does isolation look like for women today? And how do you begin healing when you feel spiritually and socially cut off? For me, I know that a lot of women, or a lot of people, it looks like isolation doesn't always look like being alone. Sometimes it looks like being surrounded by people and noise and responsibilities and feeling unseen. So I want to know if that's something that you experienced.
Yes. Yes. I experienced sometimes you could be around, as you stated earlier, a lot of people, but still feel by yourself because, and I would also say, people say, oh, well, I got divorced too. And I don't think divorce is something that feels good to anyone. But it was also different because the people I was walking away from, they had been in my life for a decade or more. That's hard.
Right.
At that particular time, I had a dance ministry with a group of young people. That was hard because I was vested in these young people, and I honestly stayed longer because I was trying to, like, if they could just get older and I didn't want them to be turned away or turned off by church. I wanted to see them flourish. So a lot of times I look back and say I made sacrifices to make sure not just my kids, other people's children were okay.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Love
You're
that.
Anyone who wants to ask a question?
So I think my question was actually similar to Tiffany's question, right? Because the one thing that resonated to me a lot is that you chose not only this woman who she has no name, but we never know this woman's name, right? In the Bible, right? Like we never get to know this woman's name. And it just made me think, like, how relevant was that to you as you sat down to write this book about the importance of, like, for the woman that's out there, right, who is struggling through something, who may not want her name to be known, how important is it to even be, held back by that, right? Like by the shame and the whatever, like, because, as I was reading it, I was like, wow, you know what? We never know this woman's name.
So I think that's the beauty of it. When we don't know her name, you can insert your name in there, because I always look at it, when the Bible doesn't tell us who she is, it represents more than just one person. I look at it from the perspective that we have the opportunity to know, when we look at her, that it doesn't matter. Even in her isolation, she had to make a decision. And I think sometimes isolation could be good and isolation could be bad. But when you isolate it and you start to say, wait a minute, how can I get out of here? I don't know if any of you ladies ever, or anyone in the chat, you've ever done this, where you feel like your back is against the wall and you feel like you by yourself, and all of a sudden you just start thinking, you're like, what do I need to do? I know I can get out of this. What do I need to do? And then bam, you hear the answer. Now, most of us, and I always say, definitely when God's talking to you, it's the answer that you're like, what? That's not what I was expecting. So the answer she hears is, go touch the hem of his garment. And it's like, you see all these people, like, this doesn't make sense. And I've often said, when God speaks to us, it never makes sense on what he wants us to do to get there. And I think that's an example for us, or a foreshadowing for us, to say, yeah, a lot of times when he tells us to do something, it's to take us out of our comfort zone and to propel us moving forward to where we need to be, but we first have to show an act of obedience.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right.
I have a
I want to touch
question.
on
I have
this.
another question.
Go ahead.
And this is for anybody who just had a thought on it. Do we think, if you look at it now, because one of the things that I read in the first chapter, when we speak in the Bible, there's the New Testament, the Old Testament of the Bible, and it speaks in those terms of a woman back then. Do we think that women now, in our current, in this century now, in this time, in this day and age, have progressed further in these types of situations versus where women were our aunts and grandmothers and moms? What's the progression like for women now? And are we more open or more closed off, or from people's experiences that we've seen, to like expressing these things or having conversations about them in different circles and groups?
That's a great question. So she says she's asking the panel. I'm going to be quiet.
Can I answer?
Sure.
Anybody? Yeah, it's a good, yeah.
So that is a great question, because I think that we have progressed because of panels like this, because of conversations like this. Of course, back in the Bible day versus now, there's more technology, there's more awareness. And even just in the book where you listed the things that it could have been, right? It could have been this, it could have been that, it could have been that. So the awareness. And then I just think for women of color, I would say, sometimes we are shunned, or sometimes people will say, oh, that doesn't matter. Or, oh, it doesn't, don't worry about it. But the more like people of my age, the more we speak about it, the more we're aware, the more that we can advocate for ourselves and for one another. So I think that it is more prevalent. Not say it's more talked about, I guess I would say.
Yeah, I would agree, because I would actually say, I came to know Dr. Elaine because at the point where I met her, I was in a depressive state, right? And heard her speak, right? But to the point that Kim made, I have a sister circle that I don't feel ashamed to share, right? And so at the point that I was going through all of that, I also had a sister circle that I was not afraid to say, I'm depressed, I'm devastated, I'm not feeling like I'm not okay, right? And I also think what's a little different now is that there's no longer as much of a stigma attached to therapy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like for me, my healing journey included therapy. And even after I went through it, I stayed in therapy as a preventative measure, right? And I think that also has made a difference now, because although there's still a little bit of, oh my God, you have therapy, I don't think it's as much of a stigma to seeking help, right? Because, we have the Bible, but God created therapists for a reason, right? And I think people are more open to that as well. So I think in a sense that has helped us progress as well.
That's good. It's interesting. And I speaking of therapy, I'm a big proponent of it. I've had a therapist for going on 18 years. I've been in therapy just as a preventative measure, because I think it makes a very big difference on how I treat myself, but also how I treat others. And I'll say it again, how I treat myself and how I treat others, because it is not just for myself, it's how I react and, how I lead and how I embrace other people. And therapy just helps you with that, because I don't need a bunch of people that love me and know my character to give their feedback, or a bunch of people that don't know me or maybe dislike me or whatever their opinions are. I need a neutral individual that is a professional that can give me feedback. So that's interesting. I respect that a great deal.
I love it.
Absolutely. I love the therapy space as well, because it helps you move it helps you get to the point where you start questioning where staying the same becomes more painful than moving forward. And at that moment, they help something shift in you from waiting, to choosing. And I know the shift for me was instead of saying, why is this happening to me? I started asking, what is this asking of me?
Mhm.
Mm,
And that was a huge shift for me of getting out of the victim mentality and into the empowerment mentality of like, okay, what is this asking of me? What do I need to learn from this? Because now I'm not stuck any longer.
Mhm.
I may not be moving forward at a really fast pace, but I'm not stuck anymore.
Mhm.
And at least I'm moving a little bit. And to me, that's really important, is that we acknowledge all of our movement, whether it's big or small.
I love that. I want to just get to the chat and ask the people in the chat if you have comments on this particular question, which I think it was great. Thank you, Kimberly. Let's hear what you have to say. So, Mama Rosa, she said, "Good evening, good topic, good panel." I agree. And Paris, she said, "Good evening and blessings." Good evening, Paris. Thank you for joining us. And we haven't seen him in a while, but Von Eric, he says, "Blessings all." That means everybody. He wants you to get all of that. You see all of those L's? That's for you, ladies. All ladies. All ladies. Thank you, Eric. All right. Any other questions from the panel that we can just talk about? Not necessarily if you don't want to ask me, we just want to throw it out to the panel because we have some great women on this panel tonight, and I'm excited.
I have something to say. It's not so much of a question, but it's just an observation from the reading. I like the way you emphasize the issue with the blood and the pain, but then you also reference to how some people were okay with just standing by. Some people were okay with just being in the proximity. And some people were okay with hoping that healing would come with them. And the fact that you emphasized on the women who was ostracized and still took the courage to touch the hem of the garment so she could be made whole, and then that will be a reference point or an example from others, was a good, it was a great thing for me. So it wasn't just all about the bad or the blood. It was also, she was still strengthened in her time of weakness to take that leap of faith, to be healed no matter what anybody thought or heard, as everyone who was supposed to be clean at the time just stood by.
I love that. I love that observation. And you think about it, how many times we are in the proximity of something, but we never move forward. We're like, it's right there, but we're like, no, maybe it's not for me. Instead of, this woman said, "Listen, I got nothing else to lose." And when you come down to that, and I always say, when you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, you're like, I got nothing. You be like, let's see what happens. And I think of this oftentimes when we were younger, right? We were more fearless. Somebody would say, "I dare you." You ever played that game when you was like, "I dare you, I
Mm-hmm.
double dare you," and you'd be like, "Go ahead, I'm gonna do it. Watch." Now somebody asks and we punk out. What happened?
Mm-hmm.
Life.
Life be life. That's
Experiences dim that from us. And that's where we have to go back to get the power to take those steps. You have to go back to who you were before you experienced life or its ills or pains. You have to remember that younger self, that fearless person that you was, that wasn't tainted by the life experiences.
I love
And I
that.
think it's really also that faith, though, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
not even just going back, but having the faith that, God didn't give you that vision for no reason. Like, I know that was a part of the book that you said. You was just like, He didn't give this to you for no reason. So, with that being said, it's like you have to get rid of the faith. I mean, get rid of the fear and have true faith and trust in Him that this is meant for you, right? So, just like she had that premonition of like, oh, I need to just go. I don't know why you told me to do this, but go and touch that garment. That was that faith. And she let go of that fear. And that kind of leads me though. You said that you had this title for 14 years,
Mhm.
right? So it kind of leads into like you had, in a sense, I don't want to say you had fear of writing this book, but it was quite some time in between before you finally put the pen to the paper.
Yeah.
What can you like kind of talk about that a little bit? Like, and also just talk about like your process of actually writing this. Did you, as you were writing these chapters, find yourself almost like going through these experiences again and having the fear all over again?
This book, as I said, I held it, and a part of this was my fear was like, oh my gosh, like you really want me to write this by myself? It was a comfort in writing with the group. But he says, no, no, this time I need you by yourself. And I was like, but you know, you really want me to be vulnerable like that? Like, what are we doing right now, God? And he says, this has been with you because believe it or not, I actually preached a message with this exact title. And I preached the message with this exact title 14 years ago. And in the midst of it, I doubted myself. And I was supposed to go to a women's conference, preach this message, and I had this was my particular scripture. However, I didn't have a title. And I went to and I'm separated. And I'm like, God, I don't think you want me to speak because my house is not right. And all of this. And I went through the whole thing. And I went through like, what are people going to think? What are they going to say? And da 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 da. And I went to this church and I was trying to find other people who would speak in my stead. Everyone said no. I'm like, who says no to a trip to Florida? But they all said no. And I was like, okay. And I had this engagement was a year out. So I had said yes a year ago. I go to this service, and what happens is it's a wonderful church, never been there before in my life. And I'm standing there and I'm worshiping. And as if God came behind me, hugged me from behind, and whispered in my ear and said, you are a woman with issues, but you still qualify. I lost it. I boohoo cried because I didn't think I qualified anymore in that area because I was getting divorced. Now, later on, I thought, well, he ain't stopped preaching. So, but for me, I felt like, oh my gosh, this is it. And God just said, no, this is just a moment in your life, but this moment is going to propel you to your next. And that was where I settled in myself that this one thing doesn't disqualify the rest of my life. And many times what happens to us, one thing happens, that's our traumatic experience, and we get stuck. And to Tiffany's earlier point, we stand on the sideline and said, oh, I guess I'm out now because this is not the life I saw for myself. And God says, no, you still breathing. You still there in that story. There's still more. And I think about all of you on this panel and those that are in the chat and other people who have picked up this book and said, this has changed my life. So what I went through, again, my earlier statement wasn't just for me. What I went through was to set the blueprint that you can still make it. I went on to become a doctor. I went on to do other things that I didn't see in my future because I was like, nope, I'm just going to be married. I'm going to have my children and we're going to live happily ever after. Because nobody says I do to say I don't. Let me get to some comments. Trudy said, great observation at Tiffany. And Lenora says, I love when you said the fact that she didn't have a name is because she represents all women. Very profound. Thank you. And she also said, God will always do for you what you won't do for yourself. Okay. And Trudy said, just for a moment. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Any questions we want to highlight for the panel? And I do have a question for you, but I'll save it towards the end.
I wanted to just say too that sometimes the goal isn't to push harder, it's to reconnect with what matters. And I know so many people who have been exhausted and they still take that one more step at a time. And if that step's connected to something deeply important, like your values, your children, your healing, your future self, you tend to keep going. And just to know that it's not always about pushing harder through and exhausting yourself. You can slow down and reconnect, and that's okay.
I like that. And I think that's where we all, because we live in such a society where everybody's like, go, 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 go. And I really think when you live in the city or like New York, in this area, where when you go to the South, people are a little more laid back or whatever, but we're like this constantly. And if we're not moving fast, we don't think we're being productive. But if we take that moment and breathe, or woosah for a moment, and then
Right.
just really say, you know what, I don't have to. I can slow my pace,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to be okay. So I think that is a very important part.
That's so important too, because we have social media, right, at our fingertips that every day is showing you people are becoming millionaires in 2 seconds, right? They're showing you that everybody has this relationship that ultimately instantly ends in marriage, and you're like, where's my husband? And it's interesting that Lisa said that, because I was talking to my brother, my younger brother, and I was telling him how it's just so important to always stay grounded in your purpose, because when everything else around you is going crazy in array, it kind of will really help level set you. So that's really important, especially in this day and time when everything is at your fingertips to compare to.
Yeah.
That's true.
And I think the other thing that I was thinking about when Tiffany was talking about her standing on the sidelines is how important identity is. How so many of us get stuck in the identity of the title that we wear, right? The title of executive or mother or elder or sister or daughter or with her, right? This woman with the issue of blood, that became her identity. And how amazing it was that she didn't let that identity of being this unclean woman stop her from pushing through, right? Despite the fear, despite the shame. And I just think about how so many women, we do end up stuck because we are so trapped in this identity. I mean, working in HR, when you sit down and tell someone, they're being downsized, right? And you see them fall apart because they have spent 25, 30 years in a position that has now become their identity, right? And so I just feel like it's so important, at least for me, when I went through my healing journey, it was so important for me to say, okay, who are you at your core? Without this title of executive HR person, without this title of daughter or sister or cousin or whoever, like Theodora, if you had none of this, who are you? And I feel like there are so many women that, that's a hard place to get to, right? Because it's not easy to figure that out. Right. And so for me, I often think, and even in the work that I do working with women is like, how do I help you get to that point where you can really truly begin to figure out who you are, right? Who you are outside of all of those titles that we attach to ourselves.
I find that really interesting. Are any of you, I'm sure all of you probably have done the Briggs Myers personality testing. It's a program, and I remember doing it years ago when I was just so arrogant. And I think back to now I'm 52 years old, and I think back to my 23, 24. Oh, I was an arrogant little horrible. And I did it. It was given to me. It was given to me. I forgot why I did it. It wasn't in school. I think it was the company we were working for. And we had access to it. And one of the administrators, she said, well, prior to taking it, what do you think? What a man think of his heat. What do you think of yourself? And I said, I'm amazing. And she said, okay, somebody else, like somebody else. She probably said, look, this little one here ain't got sense. God gave a goose. And so I said, so, yeah. And she said, but like, who are you? Who are you without these little nice clothes and all these things? And like, it's very similar to what Theo just said. And I when we left it, everyone talked about it, and everybody gave answers that were but a little more solid than mine was. And I remember leaving there, and my grandmother had an event at her church. It was an event, and I was just going to pick her up. And there was a young lady there, and for whatever reason, and they say when you want to make God laugh, you tell him your plans. And she said, your grandmother told me so much about you, and I said, hi, how are you? And she said, what are you doing? I said, I work at Morgan Stanley. And she said, what do you do? I said, I'm an administrative assistant. She said, what else do you do? I said, well, I'm an administrative assistant at Morgan Stanley. And my grandmother looked at me, because, and I'm thinking about it now, as Thea just said that, and it takes you some time to get to a point where you feel like, okay, that's what you do. Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? Like, what else is there to you aside this little sassafras little attitude, and it takes you some time to get there. And then, now on the other side of 50, which it happened more in 40s for me, but someone would say, without these things, Kimberly, who do you consider yourself? Who are you? If somebody had to describe you, one of the first things for me is I am a kind human, because it's so important for me to be kind. And it's so important for me to be kind that sometimes I ask myself, what makes you want to lead with kindness? There's just something in me. But it also has to do, it goes back to therapy and leading with that, right? Leading with kindness and that inner peace. But again, at 23, a pure mess.
Morgan Stanley was who you were.
Exactly. And didn't know nothing. So, yeah. Well, I can say it now,
Listen, but that's growth when we're able to look back. I want to welcome my co-host. I know she's in the building, and we definitely want to give it up for Lady Dawn B. Thank you, lady. We're gonna just get to some comments. So she probably just continuing to beautify herself, and she'll be on. Paris says, great discussion. Yes. Who are you? That question. Also, who do you belong to? We tend to forget our identity in Christ. I love that. Trudy says, that's good. Titles just tell what you are responsible for, not who you are. Love it. And Paris says, laugh out loud. The sense God gave that, right. I was like, I ain't never heard that one before. Only grandmas can give you those kinds of things where you'd be like, what? But later on, you'll learn from
exactly.
It. So, let me see. Lenora said, I think I read this one. God will always do for you what you won't do for yourself. Okay. So I'm loving this discussion, and I wanted to just pull out for you. I mean, I know you ask questions, but I wanted to pull out for you, like, if you had to go over. And Kathy, hey, I know Kathy was having some troubles getting on.
Yes, I was. Yes,
but
I am.
You made it. And
praise God.
We are so grateful. So I want you to have an opportunity to ask a question, because you was trying hard to get on.
I do have a question. And my question is, first of all, I am Kathy from Staten Island, St. Philip's Baptist Church. I am also a graduate of Pillar College 2022 with Dr. Elaine as one of the professors there. Praise God. I thank you for that. And my question is, in relating any of your issues, or the one that caused you to write this book, what would you say hurt you the most? The culture of shame, the cultural shame, or the spiritual rejection?
I would probably say it was the cultural, because I think the spiritual rejection wasn't from God. So if I had to say, it was the culture of church, not God, because he had never rejected me. He had already told me who I was. I had a hard time thinking it because I was seeing the outside things or having people say things to me that I felt like, okay, maybe not. So I understood, going back, that isolation where you have to pull back so that you can regroup. So that was for me. I needed to pull away to regroup, to reestablish. Even when I went to another church, I intentionally went to a church that I didn't know anybody, so that no one could go, isn't that, I don't know you, you don't know me, so I'm just sitting here, so that I could grow and that I could be fed. And I remember the first time I walked out of church and no one asked me a question. That was the weirdest feeling. That was the transition where I was like, wait, nobody knows who you are. Nobody's going to ask you anything. You could actually go home on time. I know, Kim, you understand. Kim understands. So
Can
it
I
was that.
ask you,
Yes.
before anything changed on the outside for you, what was it that settled on the inside?
Honestly, that I was worthy, that I knew God for myself.
Amazing.
And I think that's the part that sometimes we look at. I knew, like, my grandmother, my great grandma, mama, and all. When you know something for yourself, someone could pass down information to you, but when you have taken that knowledge and pulled it into application, it's a different thing, because you could hear it, but when you know it and now you know how to apply it, it then makes you move differently. Because there's a lot of people who know a lot of good words, but they're not putting they're not putting feet to those words. So it's like, yeah, I know, you could ask them, yeah, but then when you say, well, what have you done? Nothing, but I know it's like a Snapple fact. You ever opened up a Snapple bottle and it has a fact that you go, oh, okay, and you just throw it away? You know it, but what are you going to do with that knowledge? So I'd like to think that I move now, or I'm definitely from the Nike, just do it. Like, okay, what else do I have to lose? Lady Dawn B, we was welcoming you in, so say hi to the people. She literally just waved to y'all. That's it. Okay.
I did. I was trying to get off mute. Technology is not being kind tonight. Hi, people. Hi, beautiful ladies. Hey, everyone in the chat. How y'all doing? I miss y'all tonight. Hi, gorgeous ladies.
It's good to
Good
hear your voices,
evening.
Dawn. Welcome, welcome.
Hi,
So
sis.
I want to
I might
say,
be frozen.
am I frozen?
No, you're not.
Oh, okay. Ren
It's
says,
probably me.
it says open to the panel. So this question is open to the panel. How do you think your issues have reshaped your life and made you into the woman you are today? Great question. Tiffany, since I feel like I got the squares.
Okay. My issues have made me the woman that I am today. And it's such a good thing that when I did experience my 2 divorces, that I knew God and I had knowledge of self. So I was able to not take that personal and to just take it at face value for what happened, what it was, and what I need to get from it. Because it seemed like I had the same person twice. So that made
Wow.
me look at me, right? And say, no, maybe it's not them. Maybe it's you. So me being the strong woman that I am, the strong friend, I had to allow myself to break and allow myself not to stay there and allow myself to find out really who I was, because maybe who I thought I was wasn't who I was came here to be. So I had to do the personality test. I went to my astrological, my birth date, all of that to get my assignment so I can become in alignment to be a better person. And I didn't want to be angry at anyone. I didn't want to blame anyone. I didn't want to say it was anybody's fault. It's not my fault. It's not their fault. It just wasn't the time. So me breaking and looking at things from different perspectives allowed me to change and be the person that I am and open up to be, because I was that cocky, arrogant young woman as well. Like, you couldn't tell me nothing. I thought I had it all together. I was well put together. I looked good. I smelled good. I thought I was thinking good, but clearly I wasn't thinking correctly. So, yes, issues have shaped me into the woman that I am today, and I'm proud of her.
Okay, all right. And I just want to put this plug in. That's my daughter who asked that wonderful question. So I'm like, okay,
Okay.
all right. So Theo, how would you answer that?
So I would say similarly. I think my issues led me on a journey to heal differently. And so when I decided to go back into therapy, I went back in, I think, the same way Tiffany described, where I was like, I need to figure out what's wrong with me, right? And not that anything was wrong with me as a person, right? But just why I kept ending up in the same situation with the same, with the he looked different, right? But he the same, right? And also knowing that as authentic as I thought I was, right? I hid a lot behind my professional success, right? And was lacking really some confidence on the personal side. And so I think my issues led me to actually, just recognizing that like I literally sat on my bed and heard God say, you could stay in this depressive state that you're in, or you could choose to heal. Right. And so I chose to heal, but I chose to heal differently. And through that journey, I learned that I needed to learn how to love myself differently, because I was so in love with being in love that I was not loving myself the way that I should have been loving myself. And so that's how my issues kind of got me to the woman that I am today. And so now I help other women heal, right, in that space, right, and figure out who they are, right. But also for me, I think it really just has me in a space where I know what I'm worth and who I am, and I love myself from head to toe just as I am.
All right.
Right?
Thank you.
Flaws and all.
Thank you. I thank you. I also, I didn't say, well, hey to Sharon. We thank you, Sharon, for Lockley. One of the Lockley sisters was definitely here. So I'm going to ask, you know what? We're going to go around. So Danielle, how would you answer that?
I would say that it definitely helped me to get rid of the shame and the want to always have like outside validation. My issues definitely pushed me closer to God and wanting to have an understanding of that self-love, because I know that no matter what, God is within. And I just kind of got tired of like always constantly looking for somebody else to give me this love, or looking for somebody else to go and do this thing called life with, right? And I think it also really actually helped me, and it's still helping me, right? Because I'm still a work in progress here. Um, it's definitely helping me to stand up and keep my head up, because I do have a lot of moments where I find that, I'm like, oh, am I not doing this right? Right? I'm falling into that social media thing, and everybody's life looks so perfect. And, I'm making these decisions. I'm supposed to be smarter than that. But I realize that, everybody has a journey. Everybody has to learn lessons. You have to go through these things, and they don't define you. They just make you who you're meant to become. And so I think that's really essentially how my issues are truly defining the woman I am today and the woman I'm going to be in 20, 30, 40, 50 years.
I love it. Please make sure, if you're still with us, that you hit that like button and subscribe. Kim.
Ooh, so this is a very loaded question for me. So life has a way of humbling you. And so I just briefly, I've experienced loss. So sometimes you look at your life, like I was laughing about what Kimberly said. Like I felt like I was the cat's meow. That's what my mom would say, right? Like you couldn't tell me anything. I was just beautiful. I was just spun at the life of the part, everything, right? Got married, tried to do everything right, got married, got pregnant, and fairly quickly, in 2012. And then life happened. Life was life, and lost my child at 9 months. And he was stillborn, and that was the most traumatic experience of my life. I did not know why. And just to bring context, I was in a parenting class in Harlem with a whole bunch of other mothers, right? And people growing and their bellies growing. And I just had to like watch, and I'm thinking you're expecting a child and then you go home with no baby. And you start to think, oh, well, you got married and you didn't have the baby out of wedlock. All these things start to happen. And then you start to question your sanity, all of that. But there was purpose in the pain, right? There was purpose in the situation, although I did not see it or know it then. And sometimes I even question now why it happened, but God did bless me again. The next year, right? We were blessed again with a son. And he's just my pride and joy. But I still question, because in this moment, I am dealing with infertility, right? So I wanted to have more children. I wanted to, have at least 3, and I only have 1. And so I question, why did this happen to me? And what's going on? What could I have done better? What could I have done worse? Why did I do all these things? And God just is like, this is your testimony. You are going to help heal someone else. You can't keep your mouth shut. Although, you've gone through the situation and you are still healing. 13, 14 years later, you're still healing. You're still growing. You're still maturing. But sometimes you have to go through a situation and you can't lean on anybody else. There's only God. You couldn't tell me why I lost my child. The doctor can't tell me why. Nobody could have told me. Right? It's only God that can tell you why certain situations happen. And only God had the answer. And for a while, I was angry with him, But I thank God that in this journey, I'm still healing and I'm still maturing. I'm still growing. And I understand it was for a purpose. So that shaped me to give me strength, right? Because after that, there were so many other women that I testified to, so many people that I was able to sit down and talk to, that I like I said, right, even now I'm still healing, but God put people in my path that I could just encourage, and let them know that they can make it. Look at me. It's been 13 years and I'm still here. I didn't lose my mind, although I almost did, but I'm still here, right? So, yes, that's what I want to share.
Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. I'm quite sure we all do. Lisa.
Wow, I had so many days by myself while I was walking across the country last year. And my conversations with God were sometimes very humbling, sometimes very angry at myself, sometimes wallowing in sorrow. And I learned how strong I was, particularly at mile 17 every day where I hit a wall. And I knew I just had to get 3 more miles. And those were when my biggest conversations with God was when I was really hurting or like giving up on myself or beating myself up for something. And every time I pushed through, I just felt like, okay, I'm not as alone as I thought I was today. And I had one instance where I went 3 days and I didn't see a single person in Texas, and I camped in my tent between railroad tracks and the highway, and I was just like, oh, I'm really, truly, truly by myself out here. And that's when God really speaks to you and is like, I got you. I got you. And you just have to believe in that. So I did.
Thank you. You're a brave soul. I would have been like, where's the nearest Marriott? But
It was at least 60 miles away. I looked, it was a 3-day walk for me.
Uber,
I
please.
tried.
No. I admire that, Lisa. Thank you so much. Lady Dawn.
because I'm gonna be real quick while I have a right connection because it's not working right. But how did my issues reshape my life and make me into the woman that I am today? I realized my issues showed me who I am not. And oftentimes our issues come up because we are trying to be something we were not made to be. We are trying to fit ourselves into spaces that were not made for us, or fit other things into our space that's not made for us. So when those issues in life on many levels came up or come up, I realized that it shows me who I'm not, what I should not carry, what is not meant for me. And by removing those things, it gives me a very clear picture of who I am and what I want, what I'm supposed to be, what my tastes really are, where I'm meant to be. Because sometimes we'll miss it because we just keep adding things on and adding things on. And I'm supposed to be this and I'm supposed to be that. It's like asking God to open a door in the corridor. We keep asking him to open doors, open doors. Now you're in a corridor with a whole bunch of doors that are open and you still don't know which one is for you. So I've learned to pray in reverse. God, close every door that's not for me so that it'll illuminate the ones that really are and I can see. And so I've learned that with myself, with the issues that come in my life. I look at it, and this is the last thing I'll say, in the sense of, and I think I made this analogy before, I don't know why it's still stuck with me, but when a rocket leaves here, when a ship leaves here, it has all these pieces. And, as it ascends to its destination, the things start falling off. It's never in the same capacity. By that time you get to wherever it's going, it's just a cone. It's just the top. You really didn't need all the other pieces. You just needed them as you were going through. But when you're done, they have to fall off because their purpose has been met. They met the capacity of that. And so I realized that that's what my issues do. It helps pull off the things that were not meant for me, makes me aware of them so that I can finally get to the core of what I'm supposed to be, who I'm supposed to be, and I'm not carrying extra baggage.
I love that. I love that. This has been a great conversation for sure. And Lady Dawn and Theo know me. I cut off in an hour. I don't care what's happening. But I'm gonna read these comments and then we're gonna wrap up the
I actually
show.
was like, wait a minute, did she not see that it's past 8 o'clock?
Yes, I did. So Paris says, I think in songs often, and though I have not read the book yet, I like the yet, but you can still get it, Paris. I hear the songs, the gifts, and speak words from Donald Lawrence. This is inspiring. Thank you so much. We thank you. And Miss Corinne Theo said, great question. And William Michael Barbie is in the building. He said, good evening. And Paris said, at least, she said, laugh out loud to the comment with Lisa, at least a Howard Johnson, if not a Marriott. And William Michael Barbie said, another perspective is those issues were meant for us. They help to shape us and create us to be our best. #lessons. Thank you. And Trudy said, great conversation. So as I'd like to say, as we wrap up on tonight, to let people know that you can continue to leave your comments even after we leave the show. And we ask you to hit that hype button as well so that you can push the show further into these YouTube streets. But I'd like to say to this panel, thank you, thank you, thank you for your time. I thank you for lending your talents to this particular venue for tonight. I am so grateful, and each one of you are so awesome, and I am honored to have you have been a guest on Mondays Beyond the Mic. And on behalf of Mondays Beyond the Mic, we just like to say good night. Have a great rest of your week. And remember, whatever you go through, it doesn't matter because you still qualify. Have a great night.
Thank you, everyone. Bye, ladies and gentlemen.
So good night, good night, good night, good night.
Right.
And they
All I do is try to construe this life.